Hi guys, and welcome once again to Curated Logic, where we try and up your brain game. This week's review is of a game that I came across while scouring the Nintendo eStore for what to play next. After a couple of games of late that I have not been that overly impressed with, I was really hoping for something that I could get a little more out of. Luckily for me, I found what I was looking for. The reviews were great, the screenshots looked good, so I jumped on into the worlds of The Gardens Between. Produced by the Voxel agents and available for most platforms, The Gardens Between is a really wonderful game. Full of genuine emotion from the get-go, I was invested from the beginning, and despite a few faults, I finished the game smiling and genuinely touched. Let's find out why. The aim of The Gardens Between is simple. You control two characters by moving them forward and backward through time in an attempt to deliver a light source you carry in a lantern to an altar at the end of each level. Along the way, you encounter flowers that steal your light, others that give you light, bells that create little happenings, and platforms to rest your lantern on that jump from one place to another within the level, amongst other helpful and seemingly unhelpful obstacles, all of which need to be done in a particular sequence in order to be able for you to progress further. But whilst the concept is simple, sometimes the execution is not, and a good bit of thinking and logic is needed to be able to move on. Hands down, the best thing about this game is the story. From the outset, you are aware that the two child characters you are playing have very close and loving relationship. I initially thought perhaps they were siblings, but they turned out to be friends. And whilst the story is not a traditional narrative and no words are spoken throughout the entire game, the amount of emotion you feel whilst playing is surprising and warming. This emotion is the story. This emotion is achieved through a number of different ways. The game is split into different worlds, within each being a group of stages. Each group of stages and their encompassing world are drawn from a memory the two characters share, and like when you are a kid, those memories and the objects and feelings associated with them are larger than life. In this case though, literally. This heightening of a moment in their lives brought me back to memories of my childhood and how magical and mysterious some of the simplest things could be. This feeling of nostalgia, my favourite word evidently in these reviews, is advanced by the beautifully wistful music that acts almost as a premonition of the sadness of the final scene. And the way the two characters interact with each other without ever saying a word melted my heart. Even now, as I am doing this review, I feel the emotion I felt whilst playing. The game really has had that impact on me. The animation within the game also adds significantly to the feeling evoked while playing. The designers and illustrators have hit on a style of drawing that feels refined and complete, whilst also having a childlike playfulness and simplicity to it that drags you further into the world of these two young protagonists' imagination. It is not an easy thing to get that balance right, as tilting it one way or the other would make the emotion feel too serious for the illustrations, or the illustrations feel too adult to be part of a child's imagination. But as I said, the game finds that balance well. The graphics also play with colour and light in a really beautiful way. Even if there were no underlying story, just these elements alone would immerse you in the world and provoke an emotional response. For me, this showed just how much time and effort went into thinking about each detail of this game and the importance placed on making each of these details feel like a necessary part of the larger world the game creates. Honestly, it is just exquisite. As for the other aspects of the game, there isn't all that much to discuss. The gameplay itself is easy to grasp. You get a good little tutorial of how to play at the beginning, and that is all you really need. Most of the puzzles are great, with only a couple that I got frustrated by. The only real issues I had with the game were that, on occasion, I felt it was a little repetitive, and when you are in a world so full of emotion, that can be draining. For me, I wanted these levels to be fantastic mini-games in a larger project that gave you a little relief from the repetition and heavy emotion. I think if that had been the case, I would have looked forward to each of these levels so much more and never would have gotten bored in any of them. It would have also made the game a little longer, as it didn't take me very long to complete. All this being said though, the emotion is so important to the game. Doing something like that may dilute the sentiment too much and the levels may have felt out of place. But I guess we'll never know. However, even without a reprieve in between each level and the feeling of occasional repetition, I cannot do much else but highly suggest this game. I give it an 8 out of 10. If you are someone who likes to get an emotional reaction out of a game whilst also using your brain, this game is for you. Do yourself a favour and play. If you want to continue upping your brain game, feel free to follow Curated Logic on any of the socials listed below, or you can support us through Patreon, which is also linked below. And if you like this review and want to see more, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. I hope wherever you are in the world, you are keeping safe and happy. Until next time, keep upping your brain game and have fun. See ya.